Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise, sift through the sources, and bring you the essential insights you need to truly understand complex topics.
That's our goal.
Today we're embarking on a crucial journey, exploring the vibrant, often tumultuous early interactions between Europeans and the Americas. And for those of you maybe gearing up for an exam on this pivotal period, consider this your ultimate knowledge shortcut. Packed with surprising facts and, the kind of interconnected understanding that truly sticks.
That's right. Our mission for this deep dive is to not just tick off facts, but to connect the dots, offering a comprehensive understanding of the key concepts, figures, and events that fundamentally reshaped both continents.
Right.
We've got an array of sources covering everything from thriving indigenous civilizations to the stark realities of colonial expansion, and we're ready to help you navigate this incredible chapter of human history.
Okay, let's cast our minds back, long before any European sails dotted the horizon. The Americas were home to incredible, sophisticated civilizations.
Absolutely.
And for anyone looking to truly grasp the foundation of these societies, a crucial question often emerges. What single skill did the Aztecs and Mayas master that allowed them to build such vast and complex civilizations?
The bedrock, the absolute game changer, was agriculture.
Agriculture, okay.
Yeah, we're talking about the mastery of domesticating plants and animals, particularly corn or maize, which was cultivated as early as 5000 BCE.
5000 BCE.
Yeah, and this wasn't just about growing food, it was about creating the foundation for societal complexity that, in many ways rivaled and even surpassed contemporary European centers.
Surpassed.
In some aspects, yes. A reliable, abundant food supply meant populations could settle, grow exponentially, and devote time to things other than daily subsistence.
That's a powerful point.
Yeah.
It truly flips the narrative we sometimes get, which often focuses solely on European advancement.
It does.
So, beyond simply feeding people, how did mastering agriculture fundamentally reshape their societies? What kind of social structures, monumental architecture, or even daily life did it enable that wouldn't have been possible in more nomadic cultures?
Well, it's profound, really. Agriculture allowed for the creation of surplus.
Surplus food.
Right, which in turn supported specialization of labor. You could have architects, priests, artisans, administrators, because not everyone needed to be a farmer anymore.
Makes sense.
And this led directly to highly stratified societies, the development of sophisticated urban planning, and monumental architecture. Think of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital.
Okay.
By 1519, it had upwards of 200,000 inhabitants.
200,000.
Yeah, that was a city larger than any in Europe at the time.
No kidding.
Complete with aqueducts, advanced sanitation systems like trash collection, even steam baths, and vibrant markets. This mastery reveals astonishing levels of urban planning and social organization that were truly, ahead of their time, directly born from their agricultural prowess.
That level of sophistication is truly astounding. And the ingenuity wasn't limited to the great empires of Mesoamerica, right?
Not at all.
Let's shift our gaze northward to a specific North American group that also demonstrated an incredible mastery of their environment, but in a very unique way. For your understanding of diverse indigenous societies, it's important to know this one. Name the California tribe renowned for creating a shell currency and their deep connection to the Brotherhood of the Canoe.
That would be the Chumash tribe.
The Chumash.
Yes, they thrived along the Californian coast around, say, 1000 CE. They really exemplify how societies can flourish by innovatively adapting to their local conditions. Well, their environment provided abundant resources from the ocean, rivers, forests, creating a stable foundation. But what really stands out is their mastery of canoe building.
The canoes, right.
They crafted sophisticated plank canoes, which were quite advanced. They used naturally occurring tar or bitumen, to seal the gaps and make them watertight.
Ingenious.
It was. And this allowed for extensive travel and trade, not just along the coast, but also out to the Channel Islands. It fostered what they called the Brotherhood of the Canoe, a deep cultural and economic network.
And the currency you mentioned, that sounds like a truly sophisticated economic system for the era. What made their shell currency so unique and impactful?
Right. Well, what's truly fascinating here is their economic innovation. They developed a sophisticated shell currency.
Shell currency?
Using specific shells found exclusively on their stretch of coast. This basically gave them a monopoly on money in the region.
A monopoly on money.
Pretty much. These small disc-shaped shell beads, they kind of resembled Cheerios, actually. They became the standardized medium of exchange throughout much of California. So this wasn't just barter, it was a well-established monetary system. It really showcased their economic prowess and ability to leverage their unique environmental resources to create a powerful trade network.
Amazing.
It highlights how indigenous societies had complex economies long before European contact.
It's clear that the Americas were a continent of thriving, dynamic societies. But their world, and indeed the entire globe, was about to undergo a seismic shift. We must now confront the dramatic period of European arrival. The Spanish, driven by their famous motivations of God, glory, and gold, initiated an era of profound change and often brutal confrontation.
A very confrontational tone, yes.
And a key area for your understanding, crucial for any assessment of this period, is how they organized their vast new territories, particularly regarding labor. So if you were asked, name 2 distinct groups of people the Spanish relied upon for labor in the Americas.
Okay, 2 groups. Initially, the Spanish relied almost exclusively on Native Americans.
Okay, the indigenous populations first.
Yes, they implemented systems like the encomienda. Now, these were essentially grants of land.
Right, the encomienda.
That also included the indigenous people living on it. They forced them into agriculture or, more devastatingly, into the lucrative gold and silver mines.
Brutal work.
Extremely. However, the native populations were catastrophically impacted by European diseases to which they had no immunity and just brutal overwork.
So their numbers dropped dramatically.
Plummeted. We're talking about declines of 90% or more in some regions. So the Spanish faced a severe labor shortage.
Right.
And this desperate need for labor led directly to their second source, the mass importation of enslaved Africans.
So that was the shift.
That was the tragic shift. You have figures like Bartolomé de las Casas, a Spanish priest who initially participated in the encomienda system.
Casas, right.
He observed the near extinction of native populations and, in his later repentance, controversially suggested importing a new workforce. He actually mentioned black and white laborers at the time.
Okay.
But this tragically cemented a race-based, permanent, and inherited system of slavery in the New World, fueling an insatiable demand for labor in the colonies.
It's a harrowing picture of exploitation. Given the initial reliance on native labor, how did the Spanish justify such brutal systems? Were there any voices within their own ranks that challenged this treatment before the shift to African slavery truly took hold?
Well, the justification often rested on a mix of religious conversion, the idea of saving indigenous souls, and a deeply ingrained sense of European superiority.
Right, the civilizing mission.
Exactly. They viewed the native peoples as primitive and therefore suitable for forced labor. But, as you said, there were challenging voices. Las Casas is the most famous.
He spoke out against the encomienda.
Very passionately. He documented the horrific abuses in his writings. His efforts, though they didn't immediately end the system, did raise awareness and contributed to legal reforms, the new laws of 1542, which tried to curb the worst excesses.
But it didn't stop the demand for labor.
No. The economic pressure became so immense that the tragic recourse to African slavery just intensified.
That insight into internal challenges adds a layer of complexity. And speaking of nuanced aspects that are often misunderstood about Spanish colonization, here's a common point of confusion for students. True or false? Spanish leaders forbid their men from marrying native women.
That's a great question. It's definitively false.
False. Okay.
Yeah, while it might seem counterintuitive given the often brutal nature of the conquest, the Spanish monarchy actually encouraged their young male colonists, soldiers, priests, landowners to marry native women.
Encouraged it. Why?
Well, it was a profoundly pragmatic decision. Very few Spanish women were migrating to the Americas initially.
Right.
Yet a new generation was desperately needed to build, populate, and ultimately lead New Spain as a stable colonial enterprise.
This was strategic.
Very strategic. These unions were often political alliances, especially with women from indigenous noble families. It was designed to integrate native leadership into the colonial hierarchy and ensure the long-term future of the Spanish presence.
And that led to...
This policy led to the rapid emergence of a mixed-race population known as mestizo, which became, a cornerstone of Latin American society.
That's a crucial distinction, highlighting the complex strategies of colonization beyond mere conquest. And tying into those initial labor systems we discussed, let's make sure we're clear on the specific terminology. For your understanding of Spanish colonial economic structures, What were the Spanish plantations where natives were forced to work called?
Those were the encomiendas.
Encomiendas. Got it.
The encomienda system essentially granted Spanish conquistadors and settlers not just land, but also the right to demand labor and tribute from the native people living on that land.
In exchange for what, theoretically?
Theoretically, the encomendero was supposed to protect them and convert them to Christianity. But in practice, it often devolved into brutal forced labor, especially in agriculture and mining.
Okay.
This system, alongside forced conversions and missions, profoundly shaped Spanish policy and is a key component of what's sometimes referred to as the Black Legend.
The Black Legend.
Yes, it's a term often used critically to describe the excessive cruelty and exploitation attributed to the Spanish conquistadors. It was a narrative frequently amplified by their European rivals, like the English and Dutch, to cast Spain in a negative light. Understanding this term helps contextualize historical debates about the period.
Right, the propaganda aspect. Okay.
Yeah.
Transitioning from the Spanish model, it's important to note that not all European powers approached the Americas with the same strategy.
Definitely not.
The French, for instance, arriving a bit later, had distinct motives and methods which led to a very different kind of relationship with indigenous peoples in their North American colonies. So what commodity was the primary trade good sought by the French?
Right, the French. Well, while initial French efforts certainly included fishing for cod.
Cod, right, off the coast.
Yeah, but the most lucrative and primary trade good that defined their colonial enterprise quickly became furs.
Furs, okay.
The French established their colonies further north, in colder climates like Canada, where, crucially, there was no gold to be found.
No gold.
No gold. This geographical reality fundamentally altered their approach. It meant they had to, well, by necessity, cooperate with Native Americans rather than simply conquering and enslaving them for mineral wealth, like the Spanish often did.
So they needed the Native Americans for the furs.
Heavily relied on them. Indigenous tribes did the trapping and hunting for highly desirable furs like beaver, rabbit, deer, moose, elk, mink, which were in massive demand among the European elite for hats and clothing.
So a partnership born of different priorities then. But even with cooperation, it sounds like there were still significant impacts.
Yeah.
What did the French offer in return, and what were the broader consequences for the indigenous communities involved in this fur trade?
Well, in return for furs, the French offered European goods, metal tools, cookware, textiles, and, crucially, firearms.
Guns.
Yes. Now, while these items integrated native communities into new trade networks and provided new technologies, there were profound negative consequences.
Such as?
Perhaps most devastating was the introduction of alcohol, particularly brandy and rum. Native societies had no prior exposure to such potent spirits, and alcohol addiction became a widespread and destructive force, really disrupting social structures and health.
That's tragic.
It was. And furthermore, the intense demand for furs often led to overhunting, impacting the ecological balance and traditional hunting grounds. It also created new intertribal conflicts over resources as different groups competed for access to furs and trade routes.
So while seemingly cooperative, this trade model was ultimately very disruptive.
Extremely disruptive to indigenous cultures and environments, yes.
That cooperative, yet ultimately disruptive model certainly paints a different picture from the Spanish. Now, whether for conquest, trade, or settlement, none of these transatlantic voyages would have been possible without significant technological leaps.
Absolutely critical.
For your understanding of the age of exploration, you absolutely need to know about the new ships that revolutionized ocean travel. So tell us about the new ships of exploration.
Okay, the ships. The absolute game changer here was the caravel.
The caravel?
Developed by the Portuguese. These were revolutionary vessels, lighter, much more agile, and crucially equipped with triangular lateen sails.
Lateen sails, right. Different from the square ones.
Exactly. This innovative sail design allowed sailors to tack against the wind much more effectively. It let them navigate challenging coastal waters and embark on long-distance ocean voyages with far greater efficiency and speed than the heavier, square-rigged ships that came before.
So it opened up the oceans.
It really did. And along with the caravel, you had other innovations like the astrolabe for celestial navigation, improved map-making techniques, and the integration of gunpowder and cannons for defense and offense. This created a powerful technological package.
The whole suite of tools.
Right. But the caravel in particular was a pivotal innovation that truly launched the age of exploration. It made transatlantic travel not just possible, but much more feasible and less perilous, fundamentally shrinking the world, you could say.
It's incredible to think how a single piece of technology could so dramatically alter the course of human history. Finally, let's confront a critical and deeply grim aspect of this era that profoundly reshaped the Americas and, indeed, the global economy.
A difficult but essential topic.
For your exam, and for a deeper understanding of this period, you'll need to grasp this. What was the primary crop, the main cash crop, worked by enslaved people in the New World?
Without a doubt, the main crop was sugar.
Sugar.
Yes. Its profitability was so immense, almost unimaginable at the time, that it drove an unprecedented and truly insatiable demand for labor.
And that labor came from?
Overwhelmingly from enslaved Africans. They were brought in vast numbers to huge plantations, primarily in Brazil and the Caribbean, to cultivate and process sugarcane.
And the conditions?
Horrific. Simply horrific. Life expectancies on these sugar plantations were often as low as 3 years.
3 years.
Yes. Due to brutal overwork, malnutrition, rampant disease, and relentless cruelty. It was a tragically calculated economic model where it was considered more cost-effective to work enslaved individuals to death and continuously replace them with new arrivals from Africa, rather than to provide humane care or allow families to form naturally.
Just treated as disposable resources.
Essentially, yes. Beyond sugar, other significant labor-intensive crops certainly contributed to the expansion of this permanent, inherited, and racially defined system of slavery, tobacco, rice, later cotton.
Right.
But sugar truly stands as the deadliest driver of the transatlantic slave trade.
That's a truly harrowing account of human suffering driven by an insatiable market. It forces us to confront the true cost of some of the commodities that shaped and continue to shape global economies.
It does.
What a journey we've taken today. We've navigated from the astonishing agricultural genius of the Aztecs and Mayas
Incredible civilizations.
to the resourceful Chumash and their innovative shell currency, through the distinct labor forces and surprising marriage policies of the Spanish, into the fur trading world of the French, and acknowledge the pivotal role of the caravel in exploration.
A key invention.
All while shining a light on the brutal realities of the sugar plantations.
Indeed. And remember, understanding these foundational events isn't just about memorizing facts for an exam, though hopefully this helps with that too.
Right.
It's about grasping the complex interplay of cultures, economics, power, how all these things shaped continents, leaving an indelible mark. Each of these details illuminates a piece of a much larger, interconnected history, showing how deeply these early interactions set the course for future societies across the Americas.
Exactly. And here's a provocative thought for you to carry forward, something to truly mull over. The initial methods and motivations of early European colonizers, whether it was, conquest and forced labor like the Spanish, or trade and uneasy cooperation like the French, they laid down incredibly deep and distinct pathways.
Very different starting points.
Very different. So how might these foundational interactions still influence the identities, the economies, and even the unresolved social and political tensions in the various regions of the Americas today, centuries later?
A profound question to consider.
That's all for this deep dive. We hope this has given you a powerful shortcut to being well-informed, equipped with nuanced insights, and of course, ready to ace that test.
Good luck with the studying.
Keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, and we'll catch you next time.